We're the Young Indie Chroniclers podcast, and we're producing a new feature-length documentary, George Lucas, The Lost Golden Age.
George Lucas was going to do this Lawrence of Arabia scale epic on a 16-millimeter budget.
You got a chance to have the same adventure making the show as what Indy was doing.
His stuff is really quite political.
You didn't think I was going to run, did you?
I learned that when George says he wants to ultimately change or fix something, that he was going to do it.
We built a Kickstarter campaign to support the film. Late pledges are available now at Kickstarter.com.
Hello there. Welcome to Force Ghost Conversations. This podcast is your home for cozy deep dives into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent properties. This is your host, Anthony King, and each week I will be joined by fans, creators, and believers in the principles from the galaxy far, far away to discuss the thematical elements from our favorite Lucasfilm properties. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Hey everybody, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host Anthony King, and this week we are continuing our look at The Mandalorian and Grogu, the brand new film that's out in theaters, #1 at the box office. So I think a lot of people have checked it out. So we're continuing our spoiler conversations here on the podcast. And when I say conversations, this is kind of actually a different episode here. This is a little bit of a tease, I guess, as to what you can expect on our Patreon. So this is the immediate afterthoughts that I had about my 3 screenings of the movie that I posted to our Patreon site. And just to give everybody a sense of what it's like over there, because we have a couple of extra episodes at this point out on there. Every month there is at the $3 tier and above, you get access to an extra Force Ghost Conversations episode. And then frankly, it can be about other things, not just about Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent things. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. It really allows me to be a bit more creative. And if you like me and you like the things I talk about generally, I'm sure you'll enjoy that over there. And plus there's some other goodies that you get too with being a Patreon supporter. So of course the link is in the episode description, and I hope that you enjoy this little look at myself just talking about the movie, so you get some of my freshest thoughts possible about it before we even talked about it with Greg on the podcast here. So really, really purist as possibly can be, but also look at what the Patreon is. So if you want to support, there of course again is a link in the episode description for you to check all that out. We did want to touch upon the news that's taken place in Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent galaxy this week. And first off, I do want to acknowledge the good news, right? Mandalorian and Grogu, #1 at the box office this past week. We'll see how it does the rest of the summer, of course, in terms of how its legs are with the box office and what that will mean for Star Wars in the future. But right now, I'm celebrating the moment. I'm seeing a lot of great conversation and positivity about it, at least in the groups that I circulate. So I hope that you are supporting and going to Burger King and doing all the fun stuff and just enjoying some Star Wars as it's now on the big screens again for the first time since 2019. So it's a real blast, and I'm glad to be part of this journey with you all as we continue our conversations. Hey, we're not done here either talking about it. Next week, we're going to have some more, and the following week, and maybe even the week after. I don't know. The sky's still the limit, and there's a lot to talk about with this film, and I want to hear about other people's perspectives too. So that's why we're going to be doing a bigger series about it on the podcast here. Now, in terms of some sadder news, did happen this week that we did have a couple of deaths in the Star Wars family. And first, I wanted to note that voice actor Tom Kane, who is in the Clone Wars and a variety of other Star Wars projects, I believe, too, at least Rebels that I could think of. But I'm sure he's a very famous voice actor, so I'm sure he's popped up in a lot of places. But Tom Kane, who you probably recognize as Yoda, Admiral Yularen, and the narrator of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So very much a big part of the Star Wars voice acting community, especially in the animation space for all those years. And definitely very much a prominent figure in voice acting in general, definitely in the Powerpuff Girls. And if you go to Walt Disney World, which I, of course, am a local to that right now, you hear him on the monorail, and I believe Happily Ever After too. So some very big Disney prominent things he's been a part of over the years, and that this is a. I know he's had some health issues over the last couple of years, but it's sad to see. It's certainly that he has moved on to the beyond. And another loss this past week was in Marsha Lucas, who was married to George at one point, George's ex-wife, but she was also an Academy Award winning um, editor on particularly Star Wars, A New Hope. But she also did work on American Graffiti. She did work with Martin Scorsese on Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Taxi Driver, of course, as well. And has done also other things for Lucasfilm as well, more American Graffiti, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. So it's definitely a big loss. Academy Award winning. Star Wars is particularly made in the editing bay too. Like that's really where it came together. And she definitely was a big part of that, and how it all came to pass there. So definitely a sad and tragic moment for the Lucasfilm family over the last week here. And it's just it's sad. It's sad. I've nothing more to say other than that. But um, that is all that I had for the news this week, folks. On the other side of this very short break, we'll be back with my immediate reactions to The Mandalorian and Grogu. Stay tuned. Hello, Patreon listeners. Welcome back to your monthly extra installment of Force Ghost Conversations. And this is a special one for May of 2026, which is effectively also the rebirth of Star Wars back into cinemas for the first time since December of 2019 with Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. And honestly, it's also a momentous occasion because this is the first time in the history of this podcast that we've been covering a new Star Wars film that is in theaters. Yeah, almost 5 years running on this show now, and it's been that long, frankly. So we've had an Indiana Jones film in theaters that we've covered. We've covered the re-releases. We've covered technically when we've had those various opportunities where you could watch a Star Wars in the movie theater, such as like Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte, and I think Ahsoka as well. And now it's the first time that everybody, regardless of where you live in the world, has the opportunity to see a Star Wars on the big screen, and it's back with also the same people that started this whole shebang on Disney Plus in 2019, just before the Rise of Skywalker in November of that time frame, with the Mandalorian and Grogu. So this is for the Patreon listeners here. I had intended to do this episode as let me just walk you back here. So I saw it 3 times yesterday, and I had my mobile recorder with me. My intent was to, in between each screening, I thought I'd have some more time to pull out my mobile recorder device and jot down some thoughts and notes as I was um, just in the bask of watching those experiences, and then would release that as the Patreon release episode. Unfortunately, I did not have as much time as I had thought between the videos, between the showings that I had planned for the day, between other social media posts and making sure that I timed everything right, so I didn't see the same trailers 3 times. Yeah, so ultimately, because of that, you are getting my thoughts the next morning, but you are still getting my purest thoughts per se because I have not been exposed to any other podcasts to this point. I have not hosted a podcast. I say that as I'm about to in 15 minutes here, host our podcast with Force Ghost Conversations, the main show, the big show, where we have guests on the show to talk about all of the things. So this is purely me. This is a purely monologue, and honestly, I'm just going to give you some raw thoughts here. Spoiler too. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you might want to watch it before listening to this particular Patreon special release, so that you don't get spoiled to any of the goodness that is in it. Because frankly, that's going to be my first topic on this kind of musing here. Is that I loved it. I think it was a fun romp in the galaxy far, far away. I think this will be ultimately. I think this will be a divisive film, though. I think there's going to be a cynical fan base out there that's going to, no matter what. it would have taken a lot for this film, frankly, in my opinion, for it to overcome a lot of that, because naturally, just because of their the characters being on Disney Plus and us knowing them as a television property for for the entirety of their existence, basically, that it's going to say, all right, what is going to drive me to the movie theater to see them? And I think it does enough to warrant that. I would argue that, this film only exists, or the story that you see within the movie only exists because it's on the big screen. Right. I think there's a lot of CG elements to this that only because of the budget of what they would do for the big screen and the time that it takes to put something on the big screen, right, is because it, like, that warrants the big screen approach, right? I doubt that they are going to have all these hut slugs rolling around in Nalhada on a Disney Plus show, or at least it won't look as good, right? Because I know that's a lot of the complaints there. And that's the thing that I would say is the benefit of having them in the theaters here, is because you don't look, again, the volume. We'll talk about this on the main show a lot. Um, but the volume, right, has been criticized for. My mind is now seeing the realities of the situation, right? I'm not seeing the where the line blurs between, okay, I know where that's where the wall is, where they're looking at the volume, and this is where reality is. These are the props they put in display in front of it to help, filter out the space. But I so ultimately, I think it is totally worth it. But there's going to be a cynical base that's always going to say, like, I'm just going to watch this on Disney Plus, or this didn't need to be a movie. Was this necessary? Will be the other question. And I think it is super necessary. And I go back to the title of this movie, right? The Mandalorian and Grogu. And you might think yourself, why don't they just call it the Mandalorian Adventure uh, to rescue her out of the hut? Whatever. Like, the way that they're titling movies these days. But I as I've watched it 3 times now, that title has grown on me so much. It is not just about the Mandalorian anymore. This is about the growth of Grogu. This film is, and one of the big thematical elements that I take from it, is that it's about parenting. This is about Din Djarin realizing that he's no longer just a protector of Grogu, but he's a nurturer. He's responsible for teaching him and for giving him the time and space by which to make mistakes and to push buttons, right? That's the arc of the movie. It starts with Din Djarin being like, don't push buttons. And then at the end, the last clip is him saying, okay, go ahead and push the button, right? That is the arc right there. That is him seeing, okay, I've done everything I can do to protect him, but I won't be here for him forever. And honestly, when he's out in the movie, um, Grogu takes care of him, and he finds a way to help save him, right? And then Din has that good line: the old protect the young, and then the young protect the old. This is the way, and that's the thesis of this thing. It's a symbiotic relationship between the two of them, and they're growing beyond. Right? They are continuing to work together to achieve great things, and at the same time, Din is now on a task to prepare Grogu for the future. How can he do that if he doesn't explore, if he doesn't make mistakes, if he doesn't have the nurturing by which to feel confident to do those things? And I wonder if Favreau is making a larger point here in society too. And we'll get to that, I think, in the major topics of the podcast. But that was my big takeaway, and that was a real big good revelation. So honestly, if there will be people that are like, I don't think that this film is necessary and deserves to exist, and I'm going to say yes, it does, because of the emotional canon that comes into play here. Right now, you could say, sure, Anthony, there isn't this big galactic infusion and connecting to all the various wide pieces of canon. Maybe they did that not to alienate certain people or to shoehorn them into, all right, now Thrawn has to be on big screen. All that isn't necessarily in play here. And I don't know. Who knows? There's so many conversations that things that happen behind the scenes that I don't really want to speculate on, because to speculate just is not, it just derives the full notion of what exactly is presented on screen here, and it distracts away from the main conversation, which is that, right? And then it's those big themes of parenting and letting go and growing with them. um, and I would also say loyalty is a big theme in this story, as well as choice and consequence. And I would love to get into all that, and I hope that I will with our upcoming guests here over the next couple of weeks here on the podcast. So stay tuned to all of that. And ultimately, I just think this is a fun adventure, right? Star Wars is full of variety, and there for every Andor you get, you might get a skeleton crew, um, or a young Jedi Adventures, and all of them have great merit because they all offer thematical elements that make us be better people at the end of the day, and to take information from it and glean from the things that can make us be ultimately the heal the 12-year-olds inside all of us, but also to engage with the larger world around us. And I think that this story brings that up to the forefront pretty well. This is kind of like that Solo case, where I literally had a buddy after I saw it for the second time beside me go, well, that was unnecessary. I didn't need to see that. That didn't add anything to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It is pivotal to understanding where Han is at in A New Hope. It is understanding how a person becomes jaded. It is understanding how a person can still be good even with all the jadedness around them and surrounding everything that is to them. It's about a person that is technically called solo because they're alone and makes it their entire personality and identity. Yet the irony is that they have someone with them the entirety of the time, and they're never truly alone. So this film also has that same kind of connotation there. Although it does have excellent action, you're not going to be disregarded on that front there in terms of the action sequences in this movie, um, and of course, like honestly, this film is just bonkers, and I mean that in a good way. And I hate when people use that kind of word to disparage things, but it's pretty wild when you think about it. Everything that we got in this movie is exactly what it is. Um, I think it's the main character Pedro Pascal is um, only in it for maybe 3 minutes at most. Um, Otherwise, he's just voice acting with the helmet covering the wonderful stunt team, who I'm glad got credited in this movie at the beginning. Also, that'll be my gripe, is I don't like the credits at the beginning of the movie. Um, that's personal preference there, but it's not enough to disparage me from enjoying the movie overall, as you can tell. Um, but yeah, it's puppets, it's a masked hero, and it's a lot of CG characters, which is a very unsafe thing for Star Wars to do, to relaunch itself back into cinemas without and Sigourney Weaver. It is on paper that's mind blowing that they would definitely have the confidence to do such a thing with this. But again, just some quick thoughts here. That's my personal recommendation, is to go see it. I know it's going to be a divisive film. I know there's going to be a lot of commentary and questions about it. Um, and everyone, it's just up to everyone to make their own choice for it, right? And that's the beauty of art. It's a subjective thing. So go see it yourself, right? Make your own call, make your own decision. And I hope that you engage with it. That's what we always preach on this podcast, is to engage with what is there, and to think through thematically about the things. And I certainly did, and I'm glad I had the time and space to do so. And maybe it does require a second viewing to really just let it wash over you, and recognize, all right, this is what it is. And then now I get to actually dive into it and explore and enjoy the things that I'm presented with on screen here, because I think there is a rich vocabulary of thematical element within this, and you just have to be there and willing to engage with it as you are. So, folks, that is my little brief, quick talking points on this movie overall. The podcast, the main show, Force Ghost Conversations, our main feed, I guess, if you will, is the place where you'll be hearing a lot more in-depth detail about our conversations with some great guests over the next couple of weeks here. But you heard it here first. You got the purest ideas that I have out of this thing that aren't influenced or discussed with anybody else at this point. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you again for being a Patreon subscriber. We'll look forward to what next month's. I'm hoping that next month's pretty cool for the extra Patreon special release here. Of course, tell your friends about our Patreon. We love to grow the seats here around the proverbial campfire that is our Patreon platform. So I hope that you do that. And of course, we'll be back again next month with a brand new episode. Until then, may the force be with you. Take care.